All right, podcast 4 after an 8-month gap. Right, what have I been up to? Not much. I got a job as the Look Mavic Rotor brand manager for Australia, which I did for 4 months, and then I quit. Talk about that later if you want, but that's basically it. My partner in crime, who I did these podcasts with before, is nowhere to be seen. If you are out there, mate, give me a shout. So this is just me chatting by myself. Got a lot of topics to get through though, because 8 months is a fair amount of time in the cycling world and in the world, but it's also not much time as well. So the main theme of this podcast is, what is the fucking point? What's the fucking point of riding a bike? What's the point of all this new stuff? What's the point in buying loads of expensive shit that you don't need? What's the point of chasing wattage? What's the point in anything, really? The answer really is nothing, because we're all going to die, and we're all going to die quite soon. Even if we become the most famous person in the world, we'll still be forgotten in 100 years' time. So really, there's no point. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to mention our sponsors. The main sponsor of this is fire. Forest fires kicking off in Australia at the moment, like they do every year. Everyone's freaking out. One thing I've found interesting about living in Australia is how much of a pussy everyone is when it comes to heat. You would have thought that most of them having lived here for most of their lives and having to deal with a hot summer every year, they'd be alright with it. But they just completely spaz out when it gets above 30. Fucking unreal. I think it's their British heritage, isn't it? Because everyone knows that people from the United Kingdom are real fannies when it comes to heat. I was, until I moved to Japan when I was 25, and then had to deal with some actual heat. Took me about 5 years to get used to it. Then I was all right, and now I'm a fucking god. My better half is convinced that I'm some sort of ethnic mongrel, should we say? A mixture between a white person and something not white. We've done DNA tests to try and sort this out, but she's convinced that I'm a brownie. If I am, then actually that's good. I was sort of dreading that at first, because my bid to become Adolf Hitler, the new Adolf Hitler, worse, Adolf Hitler 2, wouldn't really work if I wasn't pure white. However, I think in this current climate, if I'm slightly ethnic, if I'm slightly brown, I can get away with even worse shit. I can say whatever the fuck I want. So I've decided that I would like to actually be some sort of ethnic mix, because it would give me free reign to be an even bigger cunt, which will make me laugh. Which, going back to the theme of this thing, what is the fucking point? I think it's just to be a cunt, isn't it? Anyway, let's crack on. This podcast is sponsored by DNA tests. It's sponsored by the concept of heat. It's sponsored by fire. It's sponsored by Socks and Darcy. And it's sponsored by Yamaha. So yeah, I've got this list of things that people have given me to talk about. The first thing we're going to get into is hidden shit on road bikes. So that's hiding all your cables and making your bike aero and stuff. I mean, we're not going to get into the fact that it doesn't matter about being aero. I think Hambini's covered that, hasn't he? I've covered that years ago. So ignoring the fact that it doesn't make any difference, is it a good thing? There's a reason why it's a bad thing. I worked in a bike shop for 5 months, and having to deal with putting hidden cables into a bike is a fucking bastard. The worst one I ever encountered was this shit company called Factor Bikes. I think they just designed their bike to look good on some CAD program, and then got someone to make it without thinking about how it actually is going to work, without putting any effort into it, without making it conform to any standards. And the other thing they didn't think about was the internal routing. Internal routing on a Factor Bikes frame is one of the worst things I've had to do in my life, and I've done a lot of bad things. Getting the cable through that Factor Bikes thing was horrific. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone, apart from Ronald Kuba, who I've just discovered, along with his girlfriend. Big up Girk 700 for introducing me to that pair of cunts. I tell you, fucking hell. To quote Girk 700, I've never seen a bigger cunt. I think he's right. I think the pair of them are like the yin and yang of cunt, aren't they? The yin and yang of being a cunt. They go together to somehow make each other an even bigger cunt than they would be individually, which would already be a fucking horrendous cunt. These two really, I don't know. I think they should be taken to Unit 731 and experimented on. They wouldn't find much though. So yeah, hidden trends on road bikes. I don't know, it looks alright, but it's just a fucking piece of shit to work with, isn't it? Getting a bit deeper into this whole integrated cable thing and the bid to make bikes look cleaner and more sort of, dare I say it, an Apple product. I get the feeling it's all part of this move that's going on at the moment in design and sort of aesthetics and popular culture, where everything's heading towards the same kind of look and the same kind of feel across various different types of design and art. When I look at a Canyon that's got all of its cables integrated, I get the same feeling as when I listen to some EDM music where they've done the drums in that fucking way that they all do nowadays, where they pitch up the snare drum and then stick a really short envelope on it. It's all starting to sound the same. It's all starting to look the same. We're all heading in the same direction. So a bike with integrated cables and that stem they all have now, where it's all part of the bars, it's all like a single unit, reminds me of pitched up snares. It reminds me of the new Nike trainers that all look the same. They look like moon boots. It reminds me of an iPhone. It looks like pop music sounds nowadays. And I fucking hate it because it doesn't seem made anymore. It seems to be sort of pressed out of a mould, all of it. Real talk, you know what I mean? But fuck, I hate it. I fucking hate it. Next thing we're going to talk about is cat news. I've got 2 cats now. They're fucking mental. They wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. One of them has got this voice that just sort of goes whenever he talks. And the other one just goes meow, 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 and behaves like a prostitute trying to get customers. And then you run over and try and pick her up and she just runs off. So she's a prostitute who is a tease, which doesn't really work, does it? Because if you're a prostitute, you've actually got to like do it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your business. So yeah, she's the worst prostitute in the world. So that's cat news. Oh yeah, the male cat keeps pissing everywhere and the female cat keeps vomiting. Next thing we've got on the list is the nothingness of the void. I think what I'm trying to say there is that riding a bike now is really sort of pointless and quite shit. And we should probably stop, but we can't, because if we do, then the darkness within will completely consume us. So what we're trying to pedal away from will catch up with us and then we'll be fucked. Every time you go out on your bike, you wear your bike out a bit more. So you make it lose value. You head yourself further towards long-term chronic overusage injuries. And you're doing all of this to get glory on Strava. And even when you get yourself a savage KOM, like a really fucking hard one, like the Sekiado TT in Japan that I've got, or one of the mountain ones in Tochigi that I've got, even when you upload something like that, which is fucking amazing, like those KOMs in particular are incredible. Even when you upload something like that, give it a week, you feel empty inside. Give it a day, you're empty inside. You upload a new one, right? You get another KOM, you do even better. You thrash everyone on the Tonigawa. Half an hour later, you're feeling empty. Something not right. Something's not going on in your brain that should be, or something is going on that shouldn't. It's a really weird feeling and it just creeps up on you day after day and you know, it eats away at you. You're not sure why you're still doing it. You know you shouldn't be, but there's no alternative and you don't know what else to do because it's what you've always done. And then if you're not doing that, what else are you going to be doing? Some other sport that involves pushing yourself and buying expensive shit for what? For nothing. For nothing. Next topic then. The sick fact that whenever you buy something new, you get used to it and don't feel it anymore within about 2 rides, no matter how much money you've spent on it. This links back to the what's the fucking point bit, and it's something that I've been thinking about recently. Whenever you buy something new, you get all excited about it, and then you put it on your bike and it feels good, well, you think it feels good, and then you forget you've got it. It's like I ride with Dura-Ace Di2 gears, and fucking, when was the last time I rode my bike and thought, oh, Dura-Ace, fuck, years ago, right? And it cost me thousands and thousands, right? So there's no point. Next thing I got on the list, why are there no good bike frames? That's a good question, me. Thanks. I was having this chat with the lads in Discord the other day, and we came to the conclusion that there's no such thing as a good bike frame. They've all got something wrong with them. So there's 2 ways to go about it. 1, get yourself a custom one, or 2, just get a cheap carbon one for about $1,000 because it will have as much wrong with it as the expensive ones, just probably different things wrong with it. So there's no good carbon frames. It seems weird that carbon frames are the last thing to really stop being complete shit, considering how much they cost and considering how key they are to your bike and how central they are to the identity of your bike. Gears seem to be sorted. Even SRAM have managed to fucking do something that's not complete gash. Wheels seem alright now. Hubs are alright. Its frames are still like wonky, wobbly pieces of shit with like the bottom bracket all out of true and creaking and not up to tolerance and all that sort of thing. I can't even discuss it here. Just if you've got any insight into this, why is there no good bike frames? And if there is one, please tell me and I'll buy it. Next topic then is iliac artery endofibrosis. This is something that I think I've got wrong with me, but I'm not sure. Basically, my foot numbness issues don't seem to go away. They seem to move around. They get worse when I put loads of force down. I'm convinced I've got iliac artery endofibrosis since reading it in an article on Bike Radar or some bullshit about a woman who got it. I read that and did that thing that, you know, whenever you read something on Google, you think you've got it. I now think I've got that. So I'm going to go and get tested for that. And then if I have got it, I'll make a video about it and it'll be funny. But I want to get rid of it because it's fucking annoying. So final topic of the day then, which is something called down country bikes. I'd never heard of this before about 3 o'clock this afternoon and it's now 4:30. I've just looked it up on the internet and it turns out it is a cross-country bike with long travel. I think I've turned into that guy now. I think that's it. I'm 40 years old now and I've turned into that cunt who reckons he's seen it all before. Probably because he has. We were sticking long travel forks on GT Zascar frames in 1996, mate. Yeah. And when I say mate, I mean whoever's designed this down country bullshit. It ain't new. Right, all you're doing is you're sticking a slightly longer fork on a cross-country frame. It's a cross-country bike with long travel, or a downhill bike with short travel. So they've just sort of met in the middle, haven't they? And now they're going to flog it to you, and you're going to ride it, and you're going to go, oh, it's great. And then your mates are going to tell you it's all great, and then you'll keep telling each other it's all great, trying to sort of make each other feel better about spending so much money on it. And then you're going to go out for a ride with each other. You'll look back over the next 2 years of being into down country and you'll think, oh, I had 3 good rides then with the lads that actually were really good and nothing annoyed me during. And they'll probably feel the same, right? But it won't be the same 3 rides. It'll be a different 3 rides. Probably boil it down to, for everyone involved, there'll be 1 ride that everyone enjoys on these fucking things, right? And then you're going to leave it in the garage. It's going to go a bit rusty. You'll sell it on Facebook, right? And that'll be the end of it. All right, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it.